IPMNation.com.
All Natural Being. Warning, All Natural Being with Brawdy is designed to shake your sense of self to the core.
It's full contact psychology with an empowering twist, a philosophical loofah for your soul.
For those of you not ready or comfortable releasing your inner superhuman, listener discretion is advised.
Here's your host,
Brawdy.
Welcome. It's Brian, and you're here at All Natural Being. If you're listening in live this morning, 7 to 8 a.m. Eastern Time, thank you very much. If you're checking it out at 11 a.m. Eastern or 8 p.m. Eastern on IPM Nation, thank you for that as well. Maybe you're hooking up on iTunes, any of the different places that the show now runs. Thank you very much for giving me an hour, sharing with me, the two of us hanging out for a full hour. I super appreciate it. We're into show 71 now, and we're still number one here on IPM Nation. 71 episodes, 3+ months into it, and I still believe that we're number one because this is a show about you. This is a show about the real you, the true you, the all authentic you. Not the watered down version. The real you. And we're here Monday through Friday, 7 to 8 a.m., as I said a whole list of other times, simply to remind you of who you already are. No more self-help. No more human gettingness. You've always had everything you ever needed. Now you and I just have to wake up. Pay attention to what we have right here under our feet, under our fingers, under our noses. Because when we pay attention to that, life becomes a pretty good gig. So for me, someone asked me the other day, so what's your role? How do you see what you do at All Natural Being? And I told you my favorite now is I like to consider the philosophical loofah. I like to be a pumice stone that just can kind of scrape away, grate away all of the things that aren't the real you. Like a philosophical solvent. Ooh, maybe I saw this on my run yesterday. Heating and air conditioning people. I'm a ventilation expert. How's that? Because I think if we ventilate our minds, get out some of the old stuff, we ventilate our minds, chances are pretty good we'll reconnect with our all natural being. Maybe it's more like an attitudinal archaeologist. When you think of the Sphinx or you think of any of the things that we uncover, let's say in Egypt, and you look at over the years how much sand and dirt and, just debris is covering up this stuff. It's like the tip of the iceberg. You can see just the smallest tip of the iceberg, but if you scuba down, you see the big, largest part of the iceberg is underwater. Well, I like the idea of tapping away at that marble, tapping away at that excess baggage that keeps you from being who you truly are. It's weighing you down, holding you back, keeping you in check. Your soul's tired of being left on the sidelines. I thought about it the other day. We could call it spiritual survival. What are you going to do to make sure your spirit survives? Crazy time going on in the world today, which, before we get to everything, excuse me, and this morning we have 2 anaerobic aphorisms, excuse me again, because a couple yesterday, I couldn't decide which one I liked the best, so we threw up 2 of them. If anyone listening, you can reach me at 331-684-7685. Anyone listening that would like to let me know which one we should focus on first this morning, that'd be groovy. Hit me up on Facebook. You know how to get a hold of me there. Brian Brawdy, official. Oh, official. I guess that means my unofficial page would be my personal page. If we're not friends, I don't know why we're not. Go ahead, hit me up there. 331-684-7685. Text right straight through to where I am now. Also, don't forget, allnaturalbeing.com. Leave me your email. I'll trade you. I'll give you mine. We'll hook up that way. So we're talking about all the craziness in the world, and I wanted, because some people say, oh, could we do current events? Could we talk about some things? And I thought, well, sure, why not? Especially if a viewer's like, hey, we should talk about current events, a listener. Let's talk about what's going on in the world. Let's try to dovetail all this stuff together. You're always talking about dovetailing the heart with the head. How about we dovetail every so often your heart, your head with the headlines? See if we can find a story that we can tie in. Now, that doesn't always mean they're going to be great stories. Doesn't always mean they're going to be stories I agree with. That's most certainly the case here. But before we get into the segments for today's show, excuse me, once again, before we get into the segments for today's show and the like, let's just do this story that I found a couple hours ago. It says it's trending. The headline, controversies. Kansas school district hits the pause button. It's an interesting way of phrasing it. Hits the pause button on its microaggression policy. Now, I don't know, I'm not going to out the particular school, but if you're familiar with these microaggression policies, it's to work with kids in kindergarten through 12th grade to make sure that its discrimination and harassment policies include both microaggressions and offensive symbols, is the quote. School board in Kansas had defined microaggressions, quote, as subtle but offensive comments or actions directed at a minority or other non-dominant group that are often unintentional or unconsciously reinforcing a stereotype, end quote. So they want to legislate all these things, although they're hitting the pause button for now because maybe some people thought, wow, that's not the greatest idea in the world. So they're hitting the pause button on it now. They're waiting to get more feedback and the like. But this microaggression, everyone wants to make sure we're not saying anything that's too offensive. We're not doing anything, to injure another person's feelings. But I'm beginning to wonder, when you look at stories like this, microaggressions, how about microaggressions against you and me? And by that I mean microaggressions against ourselves. And by that I mean we're beginning to learn at a very early age in life that we have thin skin. I don't know how where you are in terms of your spectrum of life. For me, I'm a little, celebrated my 49th birthday a handful of times. But when I was younger, it was sticks and stones may break my bones, but names will never hurt me. And it was sticks and stones may break my bones. It wasn't we didn't sell it out right away. Oh, it's a stick. It's going to break my bone. Sticks and stones may break my bones, but names will never hurt me. And now, a day and age, we're worried about offensive symbols, actions, microaggressions. And yet, in describing microaggression, they're talking about attitudes that are directed towards non-dominant dominance. We're dominating. Well, it would seem to me that microaggression, my first microaggression, could be stop using the word dominance. But how about the microaggressions against you and I? An attack not only on your ability to think on your own feet, but this sense of having skin so thin that even unintentional or unconsciously reinforced microaggressions or stereotypes can be offensive. Where are these parents teaching their kids that are saying, where are the rest of us remembering that we're not supposed to be offended by the words of another? I mean, there's got to be a line somewhere, I would imagine. I haven't found it in my life yet. People are welcome to say anything they like. But we're raising an entire generation, perhaps this is the second or third generation, where everyone is so thin-skinned. And if you think I'm wrong, good for you. All I would suggest, put it to the test. Let's do a little bit of empirical evidence gathering. Go on the news. Pick your favorite news outlet, cable news outlet, where they're always having these experts on. Point, counterpoint. If you remember Saturday Night Live. What was it? Dan Aykroyd and Jane. Dan and Jane. Point, counterpoint. You have these people on. All they do is scream at each other. All they do is yell and interrupt and point fingers and froth at the mouth, and they're jumping around and carrying on. Then you wonder, how are we ever going to learn to have a discourse? How are we ever going to learn to have a discussion if every time someone has a contrary opinion, we take it as a microaggression? We want everyone to believe they have thin skin even though they don't. You want to talk about perpetuating a lie? That another person has an opinion of you. How does that register in you without your permission? You're a co-conspirator. Oh, Brian, you're a jackass. Well, get in line. There's a whole laundry list of people that think that. Right? Let's not be a co-conspirator. And most certainly, let's not sit by while we're teaching the next generation to be so thin-skinned that they're derailed, they're offended, they're wounded, just mortally wounded by the words of another. I always think back to Howie Mandel and who was it? Oh, she's pretty popular now. What is her name? Halle Berry. I don't think I've ever said this name publicly because I've always tried to cut her a little bit of slack, but Halle Berry, one time on Regis and Kathy, I think it was, and Howie Mandel was the guest host. And at the time, Halle Berry, the paragon of thick skin, had been involved in a little accident and apparently left the scene of the accident. Right? She just left the scene. So as a part of the open, Howie Mandel says, hey, I bumped into Halle Berry coming out of the green room. I bumped into her in the hallway. She didn't say anything to me, and she just kept on going. Hysterical. Well, Halle Berry, if I remember, either refuses to come out or comes out and she's all worked up, how she's mortally offended and injured and wounded. And they made Howie Mandel apologize to her. For what? A joke? For referencing the truth in life? Had she been involved in an accident? Yes. Did she leave without saying anything? Yes. So how is that Howie's fault? More importantly, who cares about their little tete-a-tete? All I'm suggesting is it encourages people to go that the words of a comedian can be offending to you. And we're teaching kids and ourselves, we buy into this concept of being pincushions. Anyone can offend us. And I go back again. Only the offendable can be offended. Everyone's got an opinion. Who cares what theirs is about you? Are you happy? Are you fulfilled? Are you connected? Are you digging life? And if you can answer yes to those questions, let the crazies run around with their opinions. Right? Let them go. And most certainly if you live in and around this Kansas school district that's thinking that we should really just make sure that we continue from the very early stage to teach our future generations to be even more thin-skinned than this generation. Yeah, I would put the pause button on that. Sticks and stones may break my bones. Names will never hurt me. So if I am going to be a ventilation expert, an attitudinal archaeologist, taking my jackhammer, right? Taking my chisel, Michelangelo, with chisel in hand, all is well, clicking at all the extra marbles so that your all-natural being can come to life. Here's one of the ways I would do it. Stop feeling like you're the victim of someone else's verbiage. You can't be. Unless you want to be. If you're victimized, it's on you. Let them say what they want. What do you and I care? If we know better, then what do we care? What's Shakespeare's line? Think thou dost protest too much. Well, maybe if we're protesting, he said some really mean things. Well, maybe it's hitting a little closer to home because it's hitting a little closer to home. But if it isn't, well, let's not run ahead. If it is, then let's do something to change it to make sure the next time they say it doesn't have any talons, doesn't have any grasp, right? Like a piece of, what am I supposed to say? Hook and loop. You're not allowed to say Velcro because it's a registered trademark, so you can't say Velcro. But if you were going to say Velcro, it'd be like, the two pieces of Velcro coming together. Well, don't be the other piece of Velcro. Somebody's got something snotty to say. Don't go, oh, you're the hoop. I'm the lock. The hook and loop, whatever it is. I'm the hook. Come press up against me. Don't do it. Big thing now. Everyone's focusing on Lyme disease. Well, I've mentioned this. We were out in the front yard last week. One of my sons comes in with a tick. Got to pull that tick off. Ticks are like other people's opinions. You're out and about, walking around. Every so often you're going to hook one. Doesn't mean you got to let them burr into your skin. Sit there and hang out for a while, draining, whether you're a tick draining Lord knows what from you, or you're a negative opinion of someone else that just hangs on, bores into your skin and wants to hang there so it can drain your vital energy, whatever that is, or at least drain the positive opinion of yourself out of you, why listen to it? Why buy into it? Why seal the deal? No thin skin. No backbones the diameter of a pencil. It's not what we were born to do. It's not why we were put here. Let's stop teaching ourselves to be so thin-skinned and be injured all the time. Because all that energy that we're using to be offended, to be injured, to be derailed, to be hurt, to be maligned, to be libeled, to be slandered, whatever it is, all that energy is energy we're not putting forward to making sure we're digging the gig. We're loving our life. So that's the attitude that I would like to start to chip away at. You're smarter than you remember. You're braver than you remember. Your skin is thicker. Your backbone is stronger, girthier than you remember. Don't let anybody else tell you otherwise. All right, the anaerobic aphorism. Oh, I had so much fun yesterday afternoon, and I really was torn, so threw up one, and then I threw up the other, so let's look at a couple. So we'll have dueling, it was like dueling banjos, right? For the movie Deliverance. We'll do a dueling anaerobic aphorisms this morning. If you have a favorite, 331-684-7685. I got 3 votes already. If I get one more vote coming in, then if not, we're going to do them both. All right, so let's do this. I'll flip a coin. I don't have a coin. I brought a pair of pants with no pockets this morning. All right. No coins. So let's just do this. Like our monthly cable TV package, many of us have untold channels of potential that we will sadly never see. You ever sit down, look at your cable? Let me see. Okay, thank you very much. Like our monthly cable TV package, many of us have untold channels of potential that we will sadly never see. Good morning to you, Sue. Thank you for the good morning wishes coming in now. 331-684-7685. Thank you. You ever wonder, pay your cable bill? Or, like in life, you get up every day, you go out into the world, you pay your dues. You got all these channels you never tap into. What was the one quote? Life is like a bicycle, or our attention to life is like a bicycle. We got a 10-speed, and sadly, we only use like 3 gears. Forget who said that, but it's the same thing. We live life. Who wants to do that? All these unused channels. If you're not going to use them, send them back. Though in life, I would say if we have them, let's use them. Let's see them. Let's see what we can make of ourselves in this particular moment, in all of time. Let's use our channels of potential. Our second anaerobic aphorism. Let me see if I can scroll down. Oh, look at that. I can't go down. Life is to be lived as a flamethrower. Though many of us seem too comfortable living a candle-on-a-cake existence, waiting for someone else to blow it out. You live like that? You currently busy being a flamethrower? Or are you just waiting on someone else's opinion of you to blow out your candle? And maybe there's a spectrum there. Maybe we have to decide between one another. Sometimes a little more flamethrower. Never a candle on a cake. Who wants that kind of existence? Though the winds of fate can blow out your little flame, your little spark. Let's be a flamethrower. That's what we were sent here to do. How are you going to be a flamethrower? What specific? It makes me think yesterday, back to the guys with the leaf blowing machines, right? If you didn't get a chance to listen to that episode, all the hot air, gas-driven, motivational speakers. Maybe they're right. Maybe you should be a flamethrower. I'm all over being a flamethrower. I would just like you to be able to identify exactly what it is you want to throw a flame about. Right? Stop throwing fits. Let's throw some flames. What's your flame? What are you going to throw? Enough of the, I'm waiting, I'm a candle on a cake, waiting for a microaggression to blow me out. It's not you. It's not the all-natural you. It's not the you that I know of at your core. So maybe we get a little ventilation in there. We clear out some of the cobwebs, some of the nooks and crannies, some of the crawl spaces in our minds, so that we can remember who we ultimately are. And when you take a moment to think sharply, you know the answer to this. You know who you already are. But we get to a point where like, you know what, Bri, why don't we just settle? Why don't we call it a draw? I mean, it's not horrible life, right? It's not brutal. Might be a little blah, but it's not like brutal. Why buy into that? We're not here to be melancholy, middle of the road, watered down. That's not who we are. All right, let's do this real quick, and then I want to get good golly. Look at talking about rambling on. All right, let's be right back.
IPMNation.com.
Thank you very much. I think both affirmations were pretty cool as well. That's why I picked them. So we're going to leave the votes right there. We got 4 and 4. Hey, so we'll use them both for today. Feel free. Take them. Use them as you like. You have cable channels that are going unused. You got channels of your own potential just lying around, like in a top dresser drawer, maybe a junk bin. Well, let's get them out. Show them the daylight. Let's kick in some doors. Or maybe you're living like a candle on a cake. Whew. Oh, but if they blow me out, then someone will get a wish. No! You're born to be a flamethrower. Get out there. Now, I could only imagine. I'm not encouraging arson. You got to watch these days. All right, let's get to segment number... Oh, we should talk about all the segments first. In today's show, what we have left of it, segment number 1, we mentioned this, ventilation over vision. Herman Hesse. Remember Siddhartha? Great author. What do you call it? He said it was a brilliant wakefulness and a rapt and an excited expectancy. The adaptable readiness to hear the divine voice in your own heart. And I think if we ventilate, if we clean out some of the static quo in our minds, we might very well be able and ready to hear the divine voice, however you decipher or divine it. You might be a nun N-O-N-E. Spiritual but not religious. You might be a spiritual person. You might be an atheist. You might be a scientist. Doesn't matter. Your all-natural being sits below all of that. Sits below all of it. 30 seconds after you were born, you were none of those things that you are now. Zero, zilch, zippo. You and I both know it. We're talking about your all-natural being. So however you define the divine, it's on you. Don't let all these other people talk you in. Oh, I got to do this. I have to make sure that you're in our gang, our hood, our posse, our entourage. No, you don't. You decide how to define the divine voice. And we're going to look at that in segment 1. Segment 2, was I me? Oh, we talked before. Remember I told you about my granddad, and he would be these quote boards, and I have the one quote board in the studio that said, would the boy you were, or the girl you were, could be boy or a girl, would the youngin', if you're from West Virginia, we used to say youngin', would the youngin' you were be proud of the adult that you are? Was I me? We talk about our deathbed visions. This is your life retrospective, where you'll be forced, like it or not, to evaluate your overall performance. Tally your impact while you're here on this planet. We're going to talk about that. And was I me? There's a great quote to launch it. The life of every man and woman is a diary. J.M. Barrie wrote this quote. Life of every man and woman, of each of us, is a diary in which we mean to write one story and then write another. And their humblest hour is when they compare the volume as it is with what they had vowed to make it. Was I me? You came here vowing to be a flamethrower. You end up like a candle on a piece of cake. It's on you. Don't blame your soul. You take a back seat to anybody. It's not on your soul. It's on you. All right, segment 3. Another good one. I think. Thank you so much, Brian. I'm always nice to meet a fan. You dope. One I enjoyed kicking this around in my own mind, I guess is what I should say. Skimming the surface, longing for the marrow. Or, borrowing from T.S. Eliot, the roots that clutch. What are your roots that clutch? We're going to look at that in segment 3. Time willing. All right, let's do this. We'll be right back.
You're listening to All Natural Being with Brian Brawdy. How much longer will you let them hijack your head and your heart?
How much longer are we going to let them hijack our head and our hearts? Whether it's an outside voice or the inside voice, the craziness of the ego. I saw this little thing yesterday on the definition of meditation. It's give your crazy monkey mind. Give it something to do. Like give it a long division problem. Send it over into the corner. Keep it preoccupied. Now, this one expert on meditation was saying it's a great way. Tell the ego, hey, I need you to pay attention and count my breaths. Well, that gives him something to do. So that's cool. Another thing we could get the ego to do is focus on the ventilation. Give it a try. Okay, let's clear all these things out. Let's go. Spring cleaning. Change the oil in your philosophical engine block. Change the transmission fluid. Because I honestly believe in my heart, and I know, and you can feel it, I'm certain, that it's not about grabbing more stuff. It's about peeling away the stuff that keeps us from seeing who we ultimately are. People say, oh, you have to have a vision for the future. I'm not on with that. I like the idea first and foremost. Now, you want to have a vision after you do the ventilation? I'm all over it. But without the ventilation, how can we trust the vision? You ever meet someone that gets so far on in life and go, oh man, that wasn't really my goal. It's not what I wanted to do. You know, my parents, my folks, my friends, my school, my teacher, they thought I would be a good X, whatever that is. And you adopt someone else's vision for you? a borrowed ocularity, right? Borrowed vision. But if we do the ventilation first, we peel all that stuff out of there. A little bit of a spring cleaning. Open the windows. Let the curtains blow around a little bit. We do the ventilation first. We pare away all those things that aren't us. Let me ask you right now, what are the top 3 things you've got going on in your life right now that you could say, well, that's really not me? 20-second victory. Talk about it all the time, don't we? BEST. Breathe in, exhale, scan your horizon. Then talk about something that you're holding on to that's really not you. If you're a catcher in baseball, that mask isn't you. If you're a football player, you could say the helmet isn't you. What are some of the things that you could peel away? What are some of those things that we could ventilate from your opinion of yourself that would free you? We don't have to throw out the baby in the bathwater. We're not using a sand blaster. We can go in 1 20-second victory at a time. What are some of those things that you could do away with? And these are things that really aren't you, and that they're normal, that they're repetitive, that they're the static quo in your life, has nothing to do with making them natural. That we habitually do one thing doesn't mean we naturally do it. 2 totally different things. And you see how the words natural and normal are always confused. Oh, it's normal. Don't care. My question is it natural? Are those 3 things naturally a part of you? And if they're not, what can you and I do right now for the next 20 seconds? They're scalable. Maybe we get them all the way up to 20-minute victory. What can we do right now to start to pare some of those things away? To have faith in who we are in our foundation, who we fundamentally are. And when we have that faith, then peeling all the excess crap. Oh, I'm not supposed to say the word again. Crap. That's what when we peel away all that junk, we don't got to worry. We know our all-natural being, our inner superhuman is sitting right there. And that's what allows us to be adaptable. The brilliant wakefulness that Herman Hesse talked about in Siddhartha. The adaptable readiness, sitting on the edge of our seats to hear the divine voice in their own heart. Here, in the labyrinth. That's the courage that everyone's looking for. It takes courage to be adaptably ready, brilliantly wakeful, waiting, maybe even like a childlike expectancy to hear the divine voice in your own heart, however you define the divine. That's courage. You say, oh, well, I've got I got a 20-year plan. That's Linus in his blanket. If you remember Charlie Brown, wrapping themselves up, because we think if we have a carrot on the end of a stick, that gives us some sense of port in the storm. But what if the divine voice, the still small whisper, what if it comes in the storm? What if in the chaos of the moment you hear that voice crying out? But you're too busy. Oh, no, I got somewhere to be. Can't hang out here. Sorry. And you send that call to voicemail. And if you're like me, you don't check your voicemail till they fill up, and then you get people texting you going, I can't even leave you a voicemail? And you're like, oh yeah, okay, great. I got to go back in and clean out the voicemails. And you look, okay, have I spoken to them any time since the last blah, 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 blah. But then you just slide through your phone and erase them all without ever hearing them. Well, don't do that to the divine voice. Let's go for some heavy-duty ventilation. Let's clean out the spring cleaning of the garage of our minds, a cognitive spring cleaning, so we can once again hear what our heart is trying to tell us. But if we're constantly picking vision, then with the vision, we're trying to tell our heart. With ventilation, we put ourselves in a position for our heart to tell us. I go on and on. What did I say? Today is the 70-some-odd episode of the show, if you've been listening. I go on and on about making sure you know who works for who. Your mind works for you. You don't work for it. Well, let's talk about the relationship between you and your heart. Your heart's always working for you. We just have to be able to listen to it from time to time, and we can't do it with craniums packed full of junk. Just jam-packed, like philosophical pack rats, attitudinal hoarders of all the different things we've ever been told about ourselves. How is the heart supposed to get through all that junk? Ventilation over vision. You'll be very happy that you did. All right, we're going to run. We will be right back. Oh, I'm using these little segues now to text everyone back at 331-684-7685 and thank them for their vote this morning. So there you go. Or check it out on Facebook. I got to pull that up. All right, we'll be right back.
You're listening to All Natural Being with Brian Brawdy. Because it's never too late to take your life back.
It's never too late. That's the beauty. That's the brilliance of neuroplasticity. It's never too late. Every chance is a second chance for you to kick in the door and let your soul, rescue your soul. You want to be a Navy SEAL? You want to be Special Forces? Kick in the door. Rescue your soul. It's sitting there on the cot going, oh, man, thanks for showing up. I've been held here forever against my will. All right, segment number 2. Was I me? And you know this is one of my favorites. Because I do truly find it ironic that one of the greatest questions we're going to ever ask ourselves comes in our final moments. Was I me? When we get to that part in our life, we hear about the lightning fast inspection of all of our days. We get to grade everything we did, the overall analysis of life displayed, the montage of memories in our minds, all that we've done, all that we didn't do. When your life flashes before your eyes, you're going to have to evaluate your overall performance to appraise and tally your impact while on this planet. Crib to coffin, cradle to grave, far and wide, high and low, inside out, everything in the labyrinth. Total it up. Did my life have true, deep, impactful meaning? Did I listen to that divine voice, however you define it? Did I listen to that divine voice in my own heart? Because if you did, then you were bringing your A game. You did. I have to tell you, if you listened to the whisper, you brought your A game. You gave it your best shot. You pulled out all the stops. Lived life to your fullest. That's the true merit that you'll be able to claim. You'll know that absolutely, in the grand scheme of things, I did matter because I brought that A game. So, you and I, when we're forced to lay all of our cards on the table, and those last fleeting thoughts of conscious awareness, when destiny demands, and you know that was a part of the deal to get here, when destiny demands, show me your hand, what are you going to have to say for yourself? Will you have squandered all of your promise, all of your potential, everything that you were born with, all your natural resources? Did you live as a hobbled soul or a superhuman? It's going to be on you. It's going to be up to you. This Barry's quote, the life of each of us is a diary in which we mean to write one story. We start out, we're going to write this story, and then we write another. And in our humblest hour, on our deathbed, when we compare the volume how it turned out with how we vowed to make it turn out, and if they don't match up, how are you going to be able to answer the question, was I me? How are you going to do it? Or did you live, Sartre calls it, being for others. Jean-Paul Sartre, a French philosopher. Heidegger's they self, where we live by the committee vote, where we let everybody else tell us what we should do. Talked about the poet Gilbert in the past. We called the burning furnace of the world. Are we going to be subject to comparing our two volumes, what we said our life would be and what our life has become, and look at it and go, no, it's scorched earth. We didn't pull off everything that we said that we were. You're going to ask yourself, did I grab my gift with both hands? Was I me? Looking back over all of our days, surveying it all. Let me ask you. Are you going to be proud or plagued? Someone asked the other day, a politician, about his legacy. Well, is yours going to be laughable or laudable if you're worried about a legacy? Laughable or laudable? Will it make you smile like you mean it? When you compare these two volumes, compare both diaries, what you promised and what eventually played itself out. You're going to smile like you mean it? You're going to have to blush, bow, and just shake your head in defeat, going, nah, fate kicked the crap out of me. Will you stop using the word crap? Fate kicked the snot out of me. How's that? Because there is a true cost for turning your back on yourself. There's got to be a price for refusing to employ our all-natural being. Now, whether you think you got this all-natural being from God or gravity, don't care. I don't. You should. I don't. It's up to you. It's a personal and private thing. However you got it, big bang, big breath, there is a penalty for turning your back, a blind eye and a deaf ear on the gifts you were given, the gifts you possess, the natural resources that you possess. And as Camus put it, he's sharing with his friend a great secret. Quote, do not wait for the last judgment. It takes place every day. So the beauty of deciding to be a flamethrower, to rekindle your inner flamethrower, the beauty of that, the beauty of neuroscience, the beauty of comparing these two volumes, if you believe, is that every chance is a second chance to do just that. That's what neuroplasticity tells us. We're not dying, at least in terms of our neurons. We always have a chance. At the end of any conversation, any encounter, any moment, an hour, a day, a week, a month, a year, who cares, a decade, we can always look back over that proceeding and ask ourselves, was I me? All natural being. Was I me? Let's not wait for our deathbed. Let's not wait for our life to flash in front of our eyes. Let's burden ourselves with making sure that those two volumes, those two chapters in the diary are going to match perfectly. That we fulfilled our promise. That when the Grim Reaper comes for us, we're like a dried out bag with a little desiccant packet. There is no moisture left in us at all. We brought our A game. We never apologized for listening to the whisper, to the voice in our own heart. Never apologized. And we made it work. For ourselves, for those around us. We walk the talk. That's going to be the key to being able to powerfully answer that question, at least positively. Yep, I did everything I could. And at times, fate would try to hunch or hobble me. Great. Didn't derail me. I was still able to do those things that I believe that I'm not only capable of, but that I was sent here for. Which leads us into our third. I called it skimming the surface surface, skimming the surface, longing for the marrow of your mind. Let's go ahead and do this, then we'll come back. We'll get the segment. We'll get to segment number 3, I think. Sure, why not?
No self-help industry tactics here. You're listening to The Real Deal, Brian Brawdy, with All Natural Being on IPM Nation.
All Natural Being here on IPM Nation. So this whole concept of having to get more stuff, I got an email the other day by a, quote, motivational expert suggesting that this person could teach you how to influence crowds. Influence crowds. Influence crowds. That's what he wants to teach. And I thought, how many people have been able to effectively influence themselves? Everyone wants to influence a crowd. That's the easy thing. How about some of the heavy lifting of influencing yourself? And in this segment, that's what I want to talk about. Skimming the surface. You ever wake up feeling like there's no depth, there's no meaning, there's no passion in your life? That you're just skimming the surface? You know there's more there. You can feel it. It almost taunts you. It wants out. It wants to team up with you. That marrow of your mind, your natural resources, that bag of goodies that comes with your all-natural being. You are Aladdin's lamp. You are that treasure chest, packed full of all these riches. T.S. Eliot's quote, "The roots that clutch." Well, that's a key in. Talk to me about the roots that clutch for you. What is something that grabs your spine? If you weren't going to skim the surface for the next 20 seconds, maybe even the next 20 minutes, 1/72nd of your day, talk to me. Talk to me about the roots that clutch. What grabs your spine? 331-684-7685, 331-684-SOUL, or hit me up on Facebook. Even if you don't reach out, ask yourself, take a quick look in the mirror. What are those things that grab you? What are they? Take out your evidence book. Because here's what I've also found in over 30 years of doing this now. When you write it down, you put it in your journal, your notebook, your evidence blotter, bag and tag, the fingerprints of providence, whatever it is. When you later then go and look back, you go, wow, that led to this, which led to this, which caused me to jump over here and then drop back over there. It looks like a giant jigsaw puzzle falling together. Then you realize, wow, that really is more of a labyrinth than as the crow flies. So ask yourself, what are some of those things that grab your spine? Goethe, the German philosopher, wrote that life is a quarry out of which we are to mold and chisel and complete a character. Okay. Now you could throw in a little Michelangelo. Remember when they asked him about the statue of David? They said, oh, the statue's already in there. I'm tasked with removing. I'm a ventilation expert. I'm tasked with removing the excess marble so that the statue could come to life. Well, we could blend together a little Goethe. We're making an omelet. We could blend together a little Goethe, little Michelangelo, and just say, hey, got to chisel them out. How would you chisel yours out? What would you do away with? If we want to reconnect with the marrow, first way is to identifying one of those things. What grabs us? And then we go, okay, we have over here. Here's something I'm very passionate about. And then on the other hand, Here's all the excess marble that's keeping me from being able to let that come to the light of day. I'm so busy skimming the surface, I don't dive down all that often to my passion. It's no wonder I'm not happy. No wonder I don't feel fulfilled or successful. No wonder it doesn't feel like I have a meaning in my life. How are some of those ways that you skim the surface? Why would you hold yourself back from the marrow of your mind? Like our cable TV package. Why would you have all those channels and not use them? Born a flamethrower. Why hand out on a piece of cake? Like a small plastic little birthday candle. How is that benefiting you? How is that serving you? And the good news, the great news, the phenomenal news is that if you're still here, you can right now jump into the labyrinth. Figure out, next 20 seconds, what is the universe trying to tell me? What is the divine trying to tell me? What is the evidence that I'm supposed to bag and tag right now? If I'm going to be a detective, and we talked about it yesterday, if I'm going to be an investigator, what evidence is held for me right now? And if you start writing these things down, it'll fall together like a giant jigsaw puzzle. And then we're no longer going to be disappointed that we're just skimming the surface, because we're diving. We're on our way. And then today, for your 20-minute victory, focus on, how are some of the ways I just skim the surface in my life? Well, we skim the surface when we're busy chasing carrots at the end of the stick, right? Because we're not here in this moment, not tapped into the truly unimaginable power of living in this little sliver in all of time. We don't do it by being caught up with this idea of perfection. Oh, I got to be perfect. It's got to be perfect. It's just got to be yours. And if it's all natural, let perfection take care of itself. When you channel your all-natural being, perfection comes as it should. Not anything you have to worry about. Another function of your 20-minute victory for today. Ask yourself, why am I here? I feel the marrow of my mind, but what do I got to do to kind of draw it out a little? Figure out exactly what it is that I'm supposed to do while I'm here. What are you supposed to do? Now, if you're fortunate enough, and you say, okay, great, excuse me, I've known since I was little, this is what I'm going to do. But then for others of us, still the same thing, but I kind of dig Gerda's thing where we got to get in there and mold it and chisel it out. We're like in a giant quarry. What are we going to do? That's pretty cool. That's another way of looking at it. So whatever way we go, whether we know from the very beginning what that calling is, what that passion is, what that marrow is telltale of, or it's something we build along the way, we uncover along the way. Joseph Campbell's quote of yesterday, remember that it's a path that seemed abnormal to us up until the moment it identifies itself. Either way, still is that marrow, that heart, that's your soul sap, the dynamic energy of your spirit itself. Write it down. Put it in your evidence log. Think about all the potential that you feel in you. What are you doing to exercise that potential today? What are you doing right now for the next 20 minutes to reconnect to your all-natural being? If it's a busy day, well, I got a busy day too. We all do. Or take 20 minutes, 1/72 of your day, and commit to yourself. Look at yourself in the mirror. Look in your eyes. Lean in, a little farther, a little closer. Get right up against the mirror. Look in your own eyes and go, for 20 minutes today, I'm going to reconnect with my all-natural being. I'm going to listen to Brian, as crazy as he sounds. And I'm going to deal in this instant with whatever the universe throws at me. You'll feel it. You'll know. That's why I say all the time, I'm not a guru. I'm not a motivational speaker. I'm not a self-help coach. I'm a ventilation expert. Because I know if I can help peel away all the external mashugana in your life, you're going to hear that still small voice. You're going to reconnect with the marrow in your mind. And then when you look in the mirror, you're going to have a huge smile on your face. You're going to go, oh, what was that all about? Then you'll know. Then you've done the investigation. You've done the detective work to make sure that you're in the perfect position for the next piece of evidence that comes. And we can start down that path. We can embrace that journey when we remember who we are. And if we can't remember the specific, we can remember God or gravity. We were gifted with a human mind, the ability to discern almost anything when we pay attention to the evidence at hand. Now, you don't have to be enthusiastic. I'd like you to be empirical. Pay attention. Get the magnifying glass. I say all the time, I don't use a compass. I use a magnifying glass. Pay attention to the evidence that's at hand. And at the end of the 20 minutes, I promise you're going to want another one. You're going to want to scale these. Get them to the point where you're stacking them. And then you'll look back, and your roadmap will have formulated itself. That's the leap of faith. You never see your roadmap moving forward, not very far into the future. But when you stop and look behind you briefly, you absolutely see that roadmap. That's the beauty of living in the labyrinth. All right, we're going to go ahead and get ready to get out of here. I want to thank everyone for texting in this morning. Don't forget, allnaturalbeing.com. Leave me your email. I'll send you mine. We'll hook up that way. I'm so excited. Over the next 2 or 3 days, and most certainly next week, we've got some really great things coming. I know I've been talking about it forever, but I'm really learning now about incorporating the phone calls. We're going to have video. We're going to do Facebook Live teases the day before to let you know. We're even going to do a recap. Hey, here's what you missed on All Natural Being. In case you listening to this and you go, oh, you know, it'd be really cool if my friend could hear this. Then we'll have the ability for you to send them a link and say, hey, you could take in a portion of this. So we're working on all kinds of cool things so that we can continue to build a place for you to want to come. A little bit of respite in the storm. And my sole purpose, my gig in life, is to be that pumice stone, to be that ventilation expert, to make sure we go ahead and clear your mind of all the static quo so you can channel who I know you already are. All right, we're going to get out of here. Have an absolutely fantastic day. Thank you to all my friends at IPM Nation and all of you for listening and making us, as I say, the #1 show here on the network. I super appreciate it. Thank you for your time, and it really is. It's an honor to be able to spend an hour with you each Monday through Friday, however we hook up for that hour. Thanks so much. Have a fantastic day. Be nice to yourself. 20 minutes. Pamper yourself for a while. And I'll see you tomorrow.
You've been listening to All Natural Being with Brian Brawdy.
Join us live every Monday through Friday, 7 to 8 a.m. Eastern.
Also, check us out around the clock at allnaturalbeing.com.
Until then, always remember to bring your own bold.
IPMNation.com.